Hello, welcome to SDSU-Tube. The season is over, Brownie, for the South Dakota State University football team. Bummer drag here in Brookings this week.
A little bit of a bummer. They thought they had it up in Fargo.
Did have it.
They did have it. They had the lead with 3 minutes to go, and they just they couldn't hold on. I said on Twitter though, I think regardless of NDSU losing a couple games over the past several years, that was the biggest scare the Bison have faced in 4 years, easily. Like, they were pushed to the brink, and unfortunately they recovered, and SDSU season, as you said, is over.
Jacks finished 9-5 this year, 9 wins for the third straight season. Another great year for Coach Stig and his guys, but they do fall at North Dakota State 27-24 in the second round of the FCS playoffs. On a touchdown with under a minute to go, North Dakota State scores to win it. Go back, though, Brownie, to the first half of this game, and the Bison get out to a 14-0 lead. And it was a little trepidatious for the Jackrabbits in that first quarter and a half.
Yeah, first 3 possessions for SDSU, punt, punt, punt. First 3 possessions for NDSU, touchdown, punt, touchdown. So they were down 14-0 early. Nothing really seemed to be working, but then they busted out a little bit of a wrinkle there in the second quarter that got them back in the game.
Going direct snap to Zenner, got a running back on either side of him, and he played a little QB, faked some handoffs, made some handoffs, and it worked out very well. They get a touchdown. Then they get a big punt return on the next possession from Jerian Butler, goes 80 yards, and then they go back to this Wildcat set with Zenner taking the direct snap, and they score again to tie it up at 14.
Yeah, they got it tied 14-14 at halftime. There was a string of 8 consecutive plays over the course of 3 different series where it was the Wildcat package. Zenner took direct snap, and as you said, sometimes he handed off to Brady Mangarelli. Other times he did read option or play action and just did it himself. But it was a wrinkle that in the post-game press conference, they said they hadn't used something like that in 3 years, and it did catch the Bison off guard, everyone completely off guard. I mean, when you don't see Austin Sumner in the huddle for 8 consecutive plays, it throws a little gets you a little confused, I guess, but it worked, and they were tied 14-14 at halftime. Definitely one of those things where you look at the game plan and say, okay, they clearly tried to do something different to throw the Bison off, and it worked.
Eric Eidensness, the offensive coordinator. A lot of good calls in this game for the Jacks as they would take the lead later. 14-14 at the half, 17-17 at the end of the third quarter. Jacks come out, take a 17-14 lead in that third quarter. They held the NDSU defense. NDSU tied it at 17. NDSU went ahead 20-17 early in the fourth quarter, and then the Jacks come back and score with just over 3 minutes to play, take it down the field, and they fake to Zenner. Sumner hits Jake Winicky on a touchdown, and the Jacks have the lead with just over 3 minutes to go.
Yep, 24-20 was the score then, and actually after it was 20-17, NDSU kicked it out of bounds. Then there was a pass interference penalty, so SDSU actually started at midfield. There was a critical 4th down, where it was a 4th and 3 at the 32, so it would have been about a 50-yard field goal from Saravaka to tie. Stig said in the postgame pressure that was sort of right on the edge of where Saravaka said he felt comfortable kicking, even inside. So they went for it on 4th and 3, and Zenner picks up 4 tough yardage. He was stopped initially and then lunged forward, battled his way through. Then, as you said, they got the touchdown later in the drive to Jake Winicky. So it is 24-20 with 3:18 to go, and the Fargo Dome was about as quiet as I've ever heard it.
And then it got loud about 2 minutes later after NDSU goes down the field. I think they go 76 yards in about 2 minutes. A couple of big pass plays. They hit their freshman receiver, Urzendowski, with a touchdown with 54 seconds to go. And then the Jacks get the ball back. They've got 45 seconds and 3 timeouts. Austin Sumner gets picked off, though, on the sideline, and that's all she wrote. And again, oh, so close, but not close enough for the Jacks.
Yeah, you feel bad for the seniors because they go out 0-6 all-time against NDSU, but obviously this was as close as they had ever come to defeating the Bison, and believe me, it was a battle, it was a war of attrition, but in the end, NDSU just made a few more plays, and what you got to look at, over the course of the whole game, SDSU sort of phased out Kyle Emanuel, their big defensive end for NDSU, but the NDSU offensive line I thought was key because Carson Wentz for the second game against SDSU basically wasn't touched, was free to roam around, scramble a lot. SDSU held in coverage fairly well, but they just couldn't get a pass rush again, and that's mainly credit to the NDSU offensive line.
Yeah, those guys are really good. Jacks didn't have any sacks. NDSU only had 1 sack, though. Emanuel did not have any. He only had 4 tackles in the game, so they took care of that. But as you said, the numbers were almost even. Time of possession has been a huge deal for North Dakota State. The Jacks almost evened that out in this game. And Zach Zenner, we finally blow away that myth that he can't run against NDSU. 32 carries for 133 yards. He goes over 2,000 yards for the third straight season in the FCS.
Yeah, obviously, Zenner doesn't even give you-know-what about individual accomplishments, but he does go over 2,000 yards for the third straight season, falls 11 yards short of the all-time FCS rushing record, which you would think he would have broken had SDSU advanced another game, but that's about as down as I've seen the players at their press conference, and rightfully so, obviously, but a very tough one, especially for the senior class, the winningest senior class in SDSU football history, 32 wins over the course of their 4 seasons. So it'll be an interesting 2015 for SDSU. They're going to have to rebuild some stuff, especially on offense. I know Jake Winicky broke out. He's going to be here for a couple more years, but we don't know who the quarterback could be. It could be a 3 or 4-way race for QB next year. You don't know what the offensive line's going to look like. They got to shore that up. You don't know what other running backs or weapons they'll have on offense, but the defense returns, I believe, 9 of 11 starters. So the defense may have to, how the offense sort of picked up the defense earlier this year, the defense for 2015 is probably going to have to pick up the offense, at least at first.
Yeah, that senior class you're talking about, Austin Sumner and Zach Zenner and Jason Schneider and Trevor Greger on that offensive line. Those big, huge, gaping hole in the backfield for the Jacks coming into next season. But Sumner finishes as the all-time passing leader. Zenner came close to Josh Ronick's all-time rushing record for a career, but Zenner breaks all the Missouri Valley records for yards in a career, ties Ronick for all the touchdowns here at South Dakota State. So this is probably the most decorated senior class as far as offense in the backfield goes that they've ever had.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you said it right there. Sumner, Zenner, Schneider. You take away the top QB, RB, and wide receiver on the team, and that's what you go into next season with. So they will be extremely tough to replace. And although things are looking up for SDSU in terms of, got the student athlete center, they got the practice facility, the new stadium is going to come around in 2 years. So from a cosmetic standpoint, SDSU football is just fine. But from a personnel standpoint, these next couple of years will say a lot about how SDSU can rebuild after its most successful run in history.
Yeah, and it's kind of a new era, though. You've seen over the last couple of years all these recruiting classes coming in, and as well as a lot of the redshirt freshmen played this year and a lot of the true freshmen played this year. We'll see if that can carry over into the offensive side next year, and it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be throwing the ball, who's going to be catching the ball, who's going to be running the ball for the Jacks.
Exactly. There is still a wealth of talent here, especially on defense. JT Hassel, Trey Carr, true freshmen who had significant roles this year. They'll probably be expected to step in. But again, 9 of 11 starters on defense are returning, so that's a good note. But as you said, QB is probably going to be the number one question. Is it going to be Zach Lujan, who filled in, had a 5-2 record, but maybe didn't throw the prettiest of balls and didn't make the greatest of reads? Is it going to be Chris Little, who's a redshirt freshman who redshirted this year, a hyped kid out of Chicago? He could do it. Is it going to be Taryn Christian, the Sioux Falls Roosevelt product, who's going to come in as a true freshman? And then another name that was brought up is Dalton Douglas. So there are 4 potential starting quarterbacks for next season. And I don't know who you give the leg up to.
Who's going to be? Do you know?
I personally don't know. I would think right now, if I had to make a decision, you'd have to give it to Lujan just because he has a track record as a starter, 5-2. He's familiar with the offense, and another offseason under his belt will help him tremendously. But then again, he did get replaced in that Missouri State game after he made some bad reads. He eventually came back in and led them to victory. But it'll be interesting to see how he develops during the offseason, because I would think right now he has the leg up in the QB race.
Right. All interesting questions for next season for the Jackrabbits. They end this season 9-5, 3 straight 9-win seasons for the Jackrabbits. They start the season next year at Kansas. They get North Dakota State in the 4th game of the season next year. Going to be a very interesting start to the season, but great year again for Stig and his guys. And thanks to Coach Stiglmeyer and all the players.
Yep, absolutely. Stig gave us great access. He gave us his office. Of course, he's in New York right now, so we're just hijacking his office right now to do our video blog. But no, him, Coach Eidsness, Coach Brown, all the coordinators, all the players on the team provided some great access and some great sound bites over the course of the year. But now we transition to basketball.
Going to be good. We'll see you after the new year. For basketball, check us out continually here on SDSU-Tube.